Hey everybody, Ketwolski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Lower Decks review episodes. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about episode 5, Cupid's Errant Arrow. So, episode 5 of Lower Decks has come and gone, but is the show getting better, worse, kind of staying the same? Well, my feelings are that it's actually getting quite a bit better, and speaking of getting better, I'm going to do a couple of different things here with today's review video. I'm going to kind of tweak the format just a little bit to try to make things a little bit more streamlined and to make them a little bit more entertaining for all of you guys watching them, so it's not super boring as you just listen to me drone on and on about all the things that I really enjoyed about it. I want to kind of hit the high points and then kind of hit some of the low points and then just kind of talk about the episode and kind of get through it much faster. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that I really enjoyed. So this episode is essentially a 3-plot structure. We have the A, B, and C plot. The A plot is essentially Mariner and Boimler kind of dealing with his girlfriend and trying to uncover the mystery of his girlfriend and all that stuff like that. Then, of course, we have I would say the B plot, which is Rutherford and Tendi getting to use the little T-88s or whatever the heck they were, the little scanners, and kind of, being a little bit of a competition and then figuring out that they almost got transferred off of the Cerritos and they're having kind of their own little adventure. And then we have the C plot, which is the Vancouver, which is that upgraded version of the California class. I think they named it in the show, but I forget what it was. But the Vancouver and the Cerritos are dealing with a controlled demolition of a moon that's going to impact a planet and destroy a native species there, and they're kind of having to navigate the complexities of that situation. So this episode is really interesting because, again, very similar to that of the very first episode, this one really dovetails all 3 plot threads together throughout the episode and then all of them at the end, where you have the whole situation with the moon being destroyed, kind of driving the other 2 plots in a tertiary way. Even though that's kind of the smaller plot of it, it has the most impact on what's going on because the Lower Decks crew is continuing to go on adventures based around the directions that they're receiving from the command crew, which is based off of the negotiations and the discussions that are happening from the demolition of the moon. So you have Boimler's girlfriend who's kind of doing different tests and kind of figuring things out because they don't like the ideas that they were originally presented for the destruction of the moon. So they're kind of following her around as she kind of works on these different platforms and stuff. And then, of course, the platforms themselves and some of the subsystems of the Vancouver, which is in charge of the demolition, needs to be looked at. And then, of course, that's what Rutherford and Tendi are going to go and do and kind of handle for the USS Vancouver. They're kind of like little, exchange students or whatever, just kind of hanging out and kind of working with them. Not that they need their help, but I think it's just kind of a fun thing for them to do. So really great idea there, really well executed plot, really well executed script, very lean, very focused. And I really do enjoy these episodes where they really kind of put everything super close together, especially at the end where it all kind of connects and then we kind of have a good resolution to what everybody was kind of up to. And I thought it was a great balance. We spent a lot of time with our Lower Decks crew while still kind of getting a little bit of information going on at the command level and kind of getting those meta jokes about Star Trek and stuff like that happening with the command crew. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was great. And I like the fact that, they really are starting to nail down that whole construct of spending a lot of time with all 4 members of the Lower Decks team and each of them kind of being kind of really having room to breathe and us to get to experience them. So this episode was really well written, really well done, really well edited together, and I love the premises of it, which we'll get into my feelings about each of the different plots here in a second. But overall, the episode I thought was really well done. I don't know if this is my new favorite episode like I keep having every week, but this one is definitely the most interesting one that I watched. I think I said that about last week's episode, but this one was definitely the most entertaining one. This is definitely the most interesting one. It was definitely the one that caught my attention the most. And that after I was done watching it, I immediately restarted it again because I really felt like I missed a lot of stuff and a lot of those little kind of connections, especially with the situations with the whole parasite in the back of his head thing. I wanted to kind of see how they kind of played that up, which they did really well with that. But this episode was probably the most entertaining, and I love what they're doing there with the entire script and really everything about it. I thought this episode was really well done. Okay, so really quickly, the A-plot situation is Mariner and Boimler kind of trying to figure out what's going on with his girlfriend from the Vancouver. Boimler is obviously dealing with this situation of who is this beautiful young woman who's a lieutenant, why would she be dating him? Mariner thinks that she's an alien or a parasite or some kind of nefarious being. Boimler's just super worried and anxious about the whole situation and very jealous over her friendships with other guys and kind of just, almost ruins the whole thing because he's just kind of dealing with it in his own way. And that's the core piece of the A plot, I thought, which is we get to see both Mariner and Boimler deal with the question mark of why this woman is with Boimler in their own unique characteristic ways. Mariner goes full-on super badass space adventurer where it's got to be an android, or it's got to be a Q, or it's got to be a parasite, it's got to be, you know, all of these different kind of theories that she has. It's got to be this giant thing, and she has that really cool, like crazy, you know, board of all the different things with the red string all around it, which is, of course, I mean, of course, she doesn't need to have that. Where did she even get that board from? It doesn't matter. The point is the visual joke there, and it's really funny, and I really liked how she was putting that all together, and it had to be this giant space conspiracy, and then Boimler's like, no, it's not the space conspiracy. I just got to be super cool, and I'm super jealous, and I'm very insecure, which is very much like his character. He's very nervous, very anxious, very insecure about who he is and who he is as an officer and stuff like that. He very rarely has the opportunity to shine, which is great. You know, we're kind of dealing with his character growth throughout the seasons. I'm sure we're going to be getting a lot more of that, but I like the fact that both of them dealt with the question mark of the girlfriend differently and really true to the characters that we've kind of come to know a little bit more. I know I made that comment last week, which is we don't know everything there is to know about these characters, but we do know some things about them, and this really connected back to each one of them, and I really enjoyed the fact that both of them were trying to deal with the situation together, but also not together, and, you know, slightly in different ways. So let's talk a little bit about the B plot. That has to do with Rutherford and Tendi. Now, their whole thing is they were having some fun working on the ship, and they got to go hang out on the Vancouver, and they fangirl about the Vancouver, which is this really badass future ship. You know, it's got a lot of the upgrades, it's got all the new equipment, and I like the fact that they play that up a little bit. Normally inside of Star Trek, other than like the literal station of Deep Space Nine, but other than that, we're normally on like the newest ship, the best ship, the, you know, the badass ship, the flagship, or whatever it is. We're usually on the best looking thing, the cream of the crop, the top tier. We're usually hanging out with the best of the best. So I like the idea that people who are serving on not so good ships maybe kind of fangirl a little bit about these really amazing ships and the crews there and the adventures they must go on. I really think that that's cool. I like that idea, and I like that they played that up very well. And they obviously were super enjoying their adventure, kind of working on the Vancouver to help without them, you know, with the mission to try to redo the, you know, ship systems and get the, you know, stabilization platforms ready to go to in order to, you know, facilitate the destruction of that moon as they continued with the negotiations on how to best go about that. So I really liked that story. That was great. It ended kind of weirdly with them kind of getting into a fight with that commander from engineering on the Vancouver because he wanted to leave the Vancouver and go to the Cerritos because he was tired of being this epic hero and this whole, you know, constantly being living on the bleeding edge of everything going on. I think he wanted to go back to the Cerritos and kind of just relax and be able to just enjoy a ship as an engineer would, which is one of the reasons why Rutherford and Tendi, when they realized that they were almost going to be transferred to the Vancouver, they decided that they didn't want to do it. So it's an interesting concept, you know. It's not everybody wants to be on that bleeding edge. Some people do, and I like the fact that like somebody who's like Boimler may want to immediately jump on an opportunity to be on the best ship ever and do all the best things ever. But some people aren't necessarily like that. Somebody has to serve on the Cerritos. The Cerritos has a mission, and there's people out there that want to be on that ship and want to live that lifestyle. So it was an interesting twist ending there, and I think that all of them were kind of doing things that were wrong. I mean, they stole his pad and kind of ran around, but then also he stunned them with the, you know, the phaser, and then like one of them got slapped in the face, and so they were all kind of doing the things that were a little bit wrong there, but it was a little slapstick in that regards. And I think anybody who's taking that whole scenario where they're like, a Starfleet officer would never strike a superior officer and all that stuff like that, this is where that, you know, line is kind of blurred there between it being kind of more of an adult-themed show, but also it's still kind of like a kids-focused comedy show, so it's a little bit of slapstick, wonky humor, and you can explain that away by saying that they were all doing things that were wrong necessarily, so they kind of just all parted their ways or whatever, and that, you know, it is what it is. So, but it was an interesting thing, and again, I like how it was tying back into the primary plot of the A and B thing with also its connections to the C plot. So the C plot was, kind of a very shortened, very simple. It was really just the Vancouver and the Cerritos attempting to negotiate with a local populace for the controlled demolition of a moon that was going to kill a lot of people. They had to get rid of it. And their job was to try to resolve a lot of the I guess you could say, the nitty-gritty details of the best way to kind of deal with it. Because some people were like, this is going to damage my ecosystem. Somebody was like, this is fake news. The moon's not falling out of the sky, even though it clearly is. One person was deceiving everybody and saying that the destruction of this moon is going to cause a problem for another one, and it's going to destroy his entire civilization, even though it just turned out that he owned the planet. It was just him and the wife on the moon. But that was an interesting kind of like little fun glimpse. Again, we're going to get in those cool glimpses into what the command crew does during these things, and really just how difficult some of these situations can be. I mean, we've seen a lot of these, inside of Star Trek. There's so many of these where Starfleet ship has to arrive and they have to mediate some kind of problem. And this one was kind of played up a little bit for laughs, which makes sense because this is the Lower Deck show, but it gave it an opportunity to kind of, have some meta jokes in there about how some of the claims that the indigenous population has are ridiculous. And then I thought the really joke that was really funny, and then happens so often inside of Star Trek where they're like, "You're Starfleet, you need to fix this," and they're like, "We are Starfleet, and we will fix it." And then they give them no time to figure it out, and they immediately do something wrong, which is exactly what happened in here, where the guy's like, "You better figure it out. You're gonna have blood on your hands," and she was like, "Let me think." I thought that was really funny. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So just the visual style of the Vancouver, the visual styles of the mission, with the moon getting blown up and stuff like that. We had some really great beauty shots there of everything going on there. Again, beautiful animation. Really loved it. And I thought it was great how the subplot, the C plot, the down low plot was impacting the other two main plots in our Lower Decks crew. Really well crafted there. I really enjoyed that. So obviously, two things that were really fantastic were the flashback sequence that Mariner was recounting a story of one of her friends being killed by a shape-shifting boyfriend. They were on the Keto, which was attached to Deep Space Nine, and they were rocking those beautiful gray top uniforms. We saw those, of course, in Deep Space Nine. We saw them, of course, inside of First Contact. Those are the beautiful gray top uniforms. I thought they looked great. It was so good to see them. I love her giant hair. I still have a huge question mark as to how old Mariner is and how long she's been in Starfleet. I don't know if she's actually human. Maybe she's older and she's a different race or something. And I don't really know anymore. But I also really liked how when the boyfriend creature kind of morphed itself into its beast format, it definitely looked, in my opinion, like The Thing, the movie The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. I thought that was really cool. And then it started like eating the girlfriend or whatever. And then everybody immediately pulls out a phaser and starts shooting. Very cool, like Western bar feel there too, like Old West bar feel, where there's a disturbance and everyone's got a gun and they start shooting at it, whatever it is. But this is the sci-fi version of that. So I thought that was really kind of cool. And I just love the visual styles there. I love seeing the fact that, Deep Space Nine animated, and, we got to see that science class vessel there too, which was really cool. Now we get to see what the Keto looks like, because I don't think we had seen that up to that point. So yeah, I just really enjoyed that. I thought that was really well done. I thought that was really fun as I'm sliding off of my chair here. But I really enjoyed those visual styles there. I thought it was great. So really quickly, the only thing that I really did not like about this episode, and I would love to know why, is that there was no cold open. So we went from having these really great cold opens to the one last week, which was directly related to the episode, which I didn't really like when I talked a lot about that last week. And then in this case, we've got no cold open, which I thought was weird. There's no cold open at all. I would love if anybody has any reason for that. If anyone knows that information, shoot me a message in a comment or whatever. I would love to know why they decided to go with no cold open on this episode. I don't know if it was a time constraint situation. I didn't feel like this episode ran any that much longer, but I don't know if that's why, or I don't know if maybe they're just going to not do the cold opens anymore. I hope not, because I really enjoy the cold opens and I really wish that they would come back and be kind of their own fun little kind of self-contained thing. So hopefully somebody over there maybe forgot to add it into the edit. I don't know, but hopefully we get those back next week. That was really the only thing that kind of stood out to me as really like bad, so to speak. All right, guys and gals, that does wrap up my review portion of this video. Of course, now we are officially halfway through the season. We have 5 more episodes left of first season. Obviously, Mike McMahon has spoken very heavily online about the fact that he has finished and has pretty much wrapped up the writing for the second season of Lower Decks, and I would imagine that they're going to try to accelerate the production of that series in order to kind of deal with the fact that, physical productions are still going very slow roll in physical productions for Star Trek, obviously because of COVID, restrictions. But, we have a lot of things coming down the pipe right now. We got Strange New Worlds getting ready to start filming. We got Discovery Season 4 that's coming out. They're working on Picard Season 2, and obviously they're still working on these Section 31 shows. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and hopefully some other things that we're not even aware about. But I really enjoyed this episode. I really like the fact that they're starting to put their things kind of in place. And it's no longer just super slapstick, zany, goofy humor. It's kind of becoming a little bit more of a focused show where there's humor elements to it and there's still a lot more adventuring, which I think is very important because you can only survive off of Easter eggs, reference, and zany, wacky humor for a little while. And I think that was great to do that at the beginning and kind of pull everybody in. And now they're going to start to really roll out these really much more detailed and focused kinds of stories. There's still a lot of jokes in here, don't get me wrong, but if you've been watching this whole season, I think you'll kind of see what I'm saying is that they're changing things up a little bit, and maybe we'll get a couple of more zanier episodes throughout the rest of the season, but they're definitely focusing in and trying to make these things a little bit more, I don't want to say more Star Trek-esque, if that makes sense, a little bit more coherent in terms of like having hardcore plots happening instead of just kind of joke to joke and kind of different things like that. So, you know, these, and that's a compliment. That's not a negative thing. I also like the zany, wacky stuff that we got at the beginning of the season. It's just, it's notable that they are making the changes there, and they're going for hardcore thematic themes in a lot of these episodes. This one in particular really stood out to me. The big theme of this whole episode is clearly things are not always what they seem. Mariner thought that, you know, Boimler's girlfriend was some kind of danger and a spatial anomaly, so to speak. Boimler thought that she was cheating. That wasn't the case. The captain thought that she was going to be risking the lives of a whole civilization on a moon. Turns out it was just, you know, 2 people that were living on the moon. And then Rutherford and Tendi thought that living on the Vancouver was the best thing ever, but it turns out it really isn't the best thing ever. So this whole theme there of things are not always the way that they seem, I thought was great, and it really connected to all 3 plots in the entire episode. It just kind of put the pressure on, I shouldn't say put the pressure on, it kind of put itself all over the entire episode. It kind of wrapped it up in that kind of construct there, and I thought it was really well done. I thought the theme was fantastic, and honestly, I can't wait to see what next week's episode's about. All right, guys and gals, that does wrap up my entire video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please throw a like and subscribe down below, but also while you're there, make sure that you throw up a comment and let me know what you thought about this episode. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you enjoy it? Kind of. Are you looking forward to the rest of this season, or are you really done with Lower Decks? Why don't you throw up your comment up down below, and we'll go ahead and get the conversation started. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!